Could Montreal's most controversial contract finally become the key to unlocking their championship aspiration? Or are we witnessing the most desperate salary dump proposal in recent NHL history? This eye-opening trade suggestion involving Carey Price's massive deal and Alexander Wennberg has created a fascinating debate about asset management, loyalty, and the brutal realities of modern salary cap gymnastics. Let's be completely honest about what this trade represents. It's Montreal using their legendary goaltender's contract as a financial weapon to solve multiple roster construction problems simultaneously. The optics are absolutely brutal from an emotional perspective, but the strategic logic is undeniably sound when you strip away sentiment and focus purely on organizational needs. Sometimes the hardest decisions are also the smartest ones. The Carey Price situation has become Montreal's biggest salary cap albatross, creating a nearly impossible puzzle for Kent Hughes to navigate. His $10.5 million cap hit remains on the books despite retirement, handcuffing the organization's ability to make meaningful additions when they're tantalizingly close to legitimate contender status. Trading that contract to San Jose wouldn't just free up space. It would completely transform Montreal's financial flexibility for the foreseeable future. Alexander Wennberg represents exactly the kind of steady, reliable second-line center that Montreal has been desperately seeking through multiple offseasons. His consistent 30 to 40-point production might not generate headlines, but it provides the kind of dependable offensive contribution that allows teams to roll for competitive lines during playoff battles. At 30 years old, he's entering his prime, years with the experience and two-way reliability that championship teams require from their middle six forwards. The timing couldn't be more critical for Montreal's competitive window considerations. Their young core is approaching their crucial development phase where additional veteran support could accelerate their timeline significantly. Waiting another season for internal solutions might mean missing opportunities to capitalize on favorable chemistry and momentum from recent playoff success. Sometimes patience becomes counterproductive when championship windows start opening. San Jose's perspective in this hypothetical deal reveals their own strategic thinking about competitive timelines and asset accumulation. The Sharks are clearly in full rebuild mode, prioritizing future flexibility over present competitiveness. Acquiring Price's contract gives them salary ballast to stay above the cap floor, while potentially taking on other teams' unwanted deals for additional compensation. Is salary cap manipulation at its most calculated and effective. The third-round pick inclusion might seem insignificant, but it represents Montreal acknowledging they're asking San Jose to solve their financial problems. Draft capital sweetens deals when one team is clearly benefiting more from the transaction's primary components. Sometimes small additions determine whether complex proposals become actual agreements or remain speculation. Wennberg's defensive reliability adds crucial depth to Montreal's evaluation beyond simple offensive production. His responsible two-way play would provide exactly the kind of steadying influence their developing forwards need to learn championship-level habits. Playoff hockey demands players who can contribute defensively while maintaining offensive threat capability, and Wennberg's track record suggests he excels in both areas. The Michael Misa factor creates additional intrigue around San Jose's willingness to move Wennberg at this particular moment. If their highly touted prospect makes the NHL jump earlier than expected, they might prefer clearing roster space rather than blocking his development path. Sometimes the best trades involve selling assets before internal alternatives make them redundant. Montreal's salary cap situation has reached crisis levels that demand creative solutions beyond traditional roster management. They're caught in that familiar trap where success creates expectations that require financial commitments their current structure cannot accommodate. The Price contract represents the biggest obstacle to continued improvement, making its removal almost mandatory for sustained progress. The emotional component of trading Price's contract cannot be understated from fan perspective and organizational culture considerations. He's not just a former player, he's a franchise icon whose relationship with Montreal transcends hockey statistics. Moving his contract feels like closing the chapter on the most successful era in recent franchise history, creating psychological challenges that extend beyond pure business considerations. Consider the alternative scenarios if Montreal doesn't find creative solutions to their salary cap constraints. They remain financially handcuffed, unable to make meaningful additions while their young core develops. Competitive windows don't wait for convenient timing, and missing opportunities to capitalize on favorable development curves often leads to wasted potential and prolonged mediocrity. The precedent for this type of transaction exists throughout NHL history, where teams have used inactive contracts as financial tools to facilitate roster improvements. Columbus moved Nathan Horton's deal. Arizona accumulated multiple LTI or contracts for cap benefits. And various organizations have treated salary retention as strategic assets rather than burdens. Wennberg's contract situation adds appeal from Montreal's long-term planning perspective. He's not a massive financial commitment that could create future problems, but he provides immediate impact without sacrificing organizational flexibility. Smart acquisitions often involve finding players whose production exceeds their compensation, rather than chasing expensive stars. San Jose's competitive timeline creates natural alignment for this type of deal that benefits both organizations' strategic objectives. They need financial flexibility more than current production, while Montreal requires the opposite emphasis. Those circumstances often produce mutually beneficial arrangements that seem unusual initially but make perfect sense upon deeper examination. The roster construction implications extend throughout Montreal's lineup beyond just adding one center. Wennberg's arrival would create favorable depth situations, potentially allowing other players to settle into optimal roles rather than being forced into responsibilities beyond their current capabilities. Elite depth often matters more than top-end talent during playoff competitions. Hughes' willingness to make controversial moves has already been demonstrated through various transactions since taking over as general manager. He's shown comfort with making unpopular decisions when they serve long-term organizational interests, suggesting this type of proposal might align with his strategic philosophy. Despite emotional complications, the Western Conference implications add interesting dynamics that could influence San Jose's evaluation of this proposal. They're not directly strengthening division rivals by helping Montreal, which removes competitive concerns that might complicate negotiations with conference opponents. Price's legacy considerations create complex emotions around this potential transaction that extend beyond simple contract mechanics. His contributions to Montreal's success deserve respect and appreciation, but organizational loyalty cannot supersede strategic necessity. When championship opportunities emerge, sometimes honoring legends means making difficult decisions that serve current competitive interests. The ripple effects throughout Montreal's roster would be immediate and significant if this deal realizes. Suddenly they'd have financial flexibility to pursue additional improvements while addressing their most glaring positional needs simultaneously. That combination often creates momentum that elevates entire organizations beyond what individual acquisitions might suggest. This trade proposal perfectly encapsulates modern NHL salary cap realities, where creative financial engineering often matters more than traditional player evaluation. Teams must navigate complex cap structures while maintaining competitive aspiration, creating scenarios where unconventional solutions become necessary for continued success. The ultimate question becomes whether Montreal has the organizational courage to make emotionally difficult decisions that serve their championship aspiration. Sometimes the hardest choices produce the best outcomes, but they require conviction and long-term thinking that transcends immediate comfort considerations. Would you support trading Price's contract to create space for meaningful roster improvements? Or does organizational loyalty demand keeping his deal regardless of competitive consequences? Let me know in the comments what you think about this fascinating blend of salary cap strategy and emotional franchise management. And don't forget to hit that like button if you want more analysis of the creative moves that could reshape Montreal's championship timeline.